Yeah.
Welcome. I will now call the Affordability Committee meeting to order. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. We have one public meeting is being held this evening. If you are joining the meeting virtually and have not yet registered and wish to speak, please email cityclerks@barrie.ca and staff will email you the information to participate virtually. Public meeting is to review the city-initiated amendments to the official plan and comprehensive zoning bylaw 2009-141-29 and 35 Sperling Drive in Ward 3. Members of committee will be listening to the presentation and comments received during the public meeting, but will not be making comments or debating the items tonight. Committee members will have an opportunity to provide comments when the staff reports are considered by general committee at a later date. Interested persons wishing notification of the staff reports can sign the notification form at the back of council chambers or by email at cityclerks@barrie.ca. Michelle Banfield, Executive Director of Development Services, would you please confirm that the notifications were conducted in accordance with the Planning Act for tonight's public meeting?
Yes, Chair Nixon, they were.
Thank you. For the first public meeting, I will now call upon Michelle Banfield, Executive Director of Development Services, to provide the presentation concerning the city-initiated application for amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaw regarding 29 and 35 Sperling Drive in Ward 3.
Thank you very much, Chair Nixon, for the introduction. And thank you to Affordability Committee for letting me do this presentation. So this is this is actually the second public meeting on these properties in as many months, give or take. And it really is moving along from, direction that staff got. And you can kind of talk a bit about, the previous direction, as well as, the amendment that's before council tonight to listen about the highest and best use study that was revised. And then again, some concepts on our next steps. So this is one of 3 municipal properties that council had asked staff to look at rezoning for the highest and best use. And in an effort to get the properties in a position for scoped planning approvals to expedite really site development and increase land for housing supply in the city of Barrie. So this is the existing site. As you can see it on Sperling Drive. And in the existing, a new official plan, it is considered a seed, which is economic incentivized district to try to look at kind of redeveloping really the whole area for a mix of land uses, recognizing its priority location close to the 400 and in and amongst all the other existing businesses and buildings in the area. And then the in effect zoning bylaw right now, so it does actually have a highway industrial designation, which would permit obviously industrial type uses. And again, the intention from the official plan was to actually move away from that those industrial type uses. And that's where that seed designation came from, and looking to have a bit more of a mix of uses in and around this area. So again, as I said, it's a second public meeting. So the first public meeting looked at permitting around 12 stories, give or take, on the site. And that was in line with the official plan and that seed designation. There were not a lot of technical comments that came back on that application, nor were there a lot of input from surrounding businesses or neighbors. And council at the time was like, okay, so maybe actually this site could do more than the 12 stories, and staff, can we take a look at that? And that's where the second highest and best use came in, looking at 30-story buildings and some non-residential uses, and getting, as I said, more residential units, the possibility for more residential units. As I said, recognizing that the initial public meeting was for lower heights and lower unit counts. Really the best thing to do is to come back for a public meeting again to see if this higher building and increased residential units and commercial uses generated more feedback or perhaps more technical comments. And then again, because as I said, the C designation was looking at kind of a maximum building height of around 12 stories. You know, staff really do think it's appropriate to have a defined policy area, which is usually when you just take a look at one particular property and do a special permission that would allow the maximum height, which is being proposed here, which is 30 stories. Just as a reminder to council, typically those higher buildings you would see more in the downtown or kind of along some of our intensification corridors. But really this site, you know, up against the 400, while it's not, it doesn't fall into those categories. There's, you know, the ability to look at additional height on this site. And so much like the other applications that kind of came before us, when we looked at the highest and best use, there were some site-specific provisions to some of our existing zones that would make more sense, keeping in mind that we're looking at changing some of the zones that are in our existing zoning bylaw, which we know, you know, the first step is to get the new official plan and then have a new zoning bylaw. So it's not unusual for our council to be presented with special provisions to the existing zoning standards, just because, quite frankly, of their age. So in this case, you know, the site-specific standards, you know, a smaller front yard setback, some increased floor area, some increased lot coverage, again, that increase in building height, and as well taking a look at a reduced parking ratio. And as I said, I would say many of these standards are very similar to what council sees on other development applications across the city. And then finally, like any sort of development application, we have circulated this application. We're getting technical comments. We will hear what we hear this evening and come back to council with a staff report. And we're expecting to do that pretty quickly, coming back before the summer recess. Michelle Freedy is the planner on the file, and her contact information is there, and all of the information is on the proposed development website, in this case under Ward 3. So thanks very much for your attention. That concludes my presentation, and happy to listen to people from the public if there are people that have comments and answer questions from council.
Thank you, Ms. Banfield. I don't see anyone in the audience, and do we have Mr. Sperling on the line virtually? No, no, okay. I'm going to pass it to Councillor Congo. Do you have any comments regarding the Ms. Banfield's presentation?
Thank you, Chair Nixon. Oh, I think only to the point of, although they are no one we're hearing from this evening, I'll just point that in the Affordability Committee package tonight, you'll see 2 points of correspondence regarding concerns from members of the public. Those are the only ones I'm aware of to date from Ward 3 or interested parties around Ward 3. But I'm not sure if it's of benefit to kind of just say, while we looked at the site pieces, most of that has to do to traffic. And so I'm not sure. I believe that we'll probably be coming back at a later date when this comes forward around next steps with all the different studies and whatnot. So with a proposal of a 30-story dynamics and when that would come into play, depending on should this be sold and depending what comes in someone's proposal. But we've identified an intention to say a rezoning to this level would support up to that number of stories. So I think for those that are trying to find answers to date on traffic studies and impact and other considerations, that's later in the process.
Do any members of committee have any comments or questions for Ms. Banfield? Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. This is just a comment. You know, thank you to staff for going back and looking at this. I think people in the public need to realize that we're trying to maximize this to do a lot of great things around the community and, you know, incentivize housing. So thank you for the report, and I look forward to the further information.
Thank you. Do any other members of council have any comments or questions for Ms. Banfield? Seeing none. Thank you. If anyone watching has any further written comments, they can be submitted to Michelle Freethy in the Development Services Department at michelle.freethy, that is FREETHY @barrie.ca. We have 2 advisory committee reports on the agenda to be received. 6.1, report of the Heritage Barrie Committee dated April 30th, 2024. And also from Heritage Barrie Committee report dated April 30th. Yes, also April 30th, 24. Does a member of committee wish to put the motion on the floor?
So moved.
All in favor? You're forgiven. Thank you. Carries. That brings us, we have no reports of officers of the corporation or items for discussion. So we will now move to adjournment. No, we will not, apparently. Okay, my apologies. So the motion, the recommendation is that Barrie initiated correspondence regarding a request to the province to extend the removal date of listed or non-designated properties from the municipal heritage register.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson.
The Heritage Barrie recommendation is to be received for information purposes. Given the province has actually extended the timelines to January 2027. So there would be no need for this letter, and you know, I think that this allows the Heritage Barrie to achieve what they're trying to. So I'll put it on the floor to receive the information purposes only.
Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know Councilor Rietma had a conversation with Minister Downey as well about this a ways back. So I wanted to publicly say thank you for that, because it certainly makes it easier. And I believe that was prior to the government actually making their amended timeline of 27. So I don't know if you're responsible, but you might be, and so you can just tell everyone you were, right? But there has been a change. It doesn't hit exactly what was being requested by Heritage Barrie, but certainly gets closer, and gives an additional 2 years. The other thing I wanted to, while we're on the topic of heritage, you know, we need to over time bring these buildings that are of importance to us, and certainly those in public ownership or could be in public ownership, to the forefront, and then get them into a position where they're recognized as heritage buildings. And so I actually think there's a ton of work, Councillor, as chair of Heritage, that you and your team, I know Councillor Kungal's on there with you, will have to do over the next couple of years. And so in advance, I just want to say thank you and good luck, because there's a lot coming down the line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you're absolutely right, Mr. Mayor. There's a lot of work to be done. In the next 6 months or so, there will be applications or processes here coming to council, 2 or 3 a month, to designate properties. The committee is working very diligently on that. I think we have 13 properties that the consultant has been hired or in the process of being hired. And we will, this council is going to be busy passing bylaws designating buildings. And we are also hoping that we will get even more than that at this point. I think as well, staff are working on revamping the CIP program. And I think we would like to see that happen and that it be expanded so that one of the challenges is that we don't want to lose these properties by the fact that nobody can afford to repair them. And so I think there will be something through the CIP program to improve facades. We're hoping for that kind of thing. There will be a public meeting in June. I think June 25th is the date. Don't hold me to that. So that will be the start of that process. And I think we will see more in the fall on that. I don't think I can claim credit for the province changing the date, but I'm certainly delighted with it. So I'm appreciative.
I'm going to tell everyone it was Claire.
Very good. Thank you. So at this point, the two items are being received. We don't need to vote or? Yeah, so the two items are received. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Now we will move past reports of officers and items for discussion to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Seconded. Thank you. Carried. That concludes the Affordability Committee